Hey everybody, gonna make a quick video on troubleshooting and also replacing some parts on 2004 Dodge Ram 2500. The issue I ran into is the blower for the AC system wasn't working, so I ripped a bunch of stuff apart. You don't have to rip this much stuff apart, hopefully. I had some other issues too. But this video is about the blower not working. So first thing that you probably want to do is under your hood you have a fuse and relay box. It's going to look like this. You're going to have a 40 amp little fuse here that's going to run the ignition and the blower. This one right here, this spot is the relay, the contactor for the AC clutch. It's out because I have to replace it because mine was seized up and it was holding in for the AC clutch. Even though you turn the AC off, it would still keep the clutch in and run the compressor. Anyway, and on the back of your panel here for your cover for your relay panel, it's going to tell you all your different protections and your relays and stuff. So just make sure you check that first before you go too far and start spending money. Just check your fuses, and on this particular model there's no relay for the blower. The blower runs off the ignition. Unless you have the SRT model, there is a contactor, a relay for the blower. It doesn't go off the ignition. But if you don't have the SRT, you are going to go to the ignition. And there's something called an ignition switch, which is basically just a contactor. This is the new one, kind of what it looks like. It fits right in here. Anyways, I'll show you some of the screws that I take off to get to that. It's not that bad. You just take off. There's a shroud that sits around here, covering the steering column, and there's just three torque bolts in there that are holding that on. It's really easy to get off. Once you take that off, you're gonna have to remove the lock. This right here is the lock for, just goes up in here. That's the lock to adjust the steering column. So you just take that off with two screws. Those are torque bolts as well. T25, I think, is what I used. Anyways, once you get those off, then you have your wiring harness here that attaches to the ignition switch. And then basically what you do is a red tab under here, right here. This guy, you just pull him out and then slide this white tab up, and then the actual ignition switch just slides in and out. So that's the problem I was having. There's other issues that you can have without the blower working. One of the problems obviously was with the fuse. The next issue could be the blower itself. My blower is right over there. It actually just sits right underneath the passenger's, right underneath the glove box behind there. It's real easy to get out. It's just three nuts or bolts that come out. You drop that. There's a way to test that. You can bump it by just hooking 12 volts up to it. You can just go off your car battery if you want, or you can just ohm it out and check the resistance on your motor. If your blower's good and you're still not getting the blower's still not coming on, there's another issue that you can run into. One of them, this right here, is the little climate control panel. I got it kind of ripped apart, but it sits in there usually, and there's little knobs on it. The knob on your left, this one here, that one controls the fan speed, your blower speed. This one right here is for temp. That's your temp to mix the blend the temp. And then this one right here is to change. This controls the different little for the vents. It just controls the little servos and stuff that control the vents. But that's a different story. But if you're having issues with the blower, you're going to be focusing on the guy on the left. There's some issues you can run into with having poor contact back here in this little contactor back here. It's just like a little gyro thing that turns and makes contact and closing and heating up different wires, which are different motor speeds. Unfortunately, you can't buy just this little black piece. You actually have to buy the whole climate control system, and it's kind of expensive. So it's about $100. So obviously, before you do that, there's some other things that we're going to talk about that you can do as well. But these can get gunked up, and to take it out is pretty easy. You can just unplug the wiring harness here, and then this little black thing just held in with some clips, and it pops out, and then you'll see in there where it can get kind of gunked up and get dirty. But I don't necessarily think that's as big as a problem, or as common, I mean. But that could be a possibility. Online, there are some schematics. They're kind of vague and a little hard to come by, but I found one, and I kind of went through, and I had voltage coming in and out of this, so I didn't spend too much time on that. And these wires, actually, so you have basically a hot and a ground right here. This fat one. So you have, you got a hot and a ground. Your ground is the black and green. You got a hot with a blue and yellow stripe. And basically those are gonna send your DC voltage over to what they call the motor resistor for your blower, which is gonna change your different fan speeds. So a lot of times what will happen is, if you're only getting blower on high, you're probably having an issue with this guy. This guy is just some resistors that they put in series with each other, and it plugs in right here to this guy, and it sits right next to the blower, right up in there. I don't know if that's a good enough picture for you, but it's just held in with 2 screws, and this is what controls the if you look on here, you have, like, if I can get it, see, like an M1, an H, an L, and M2. So you have low, medium 1, medium 2, and high. And how this works is, when it's on high, it bypasses all the resistors, and it's just a shunt around, and it's just closing in the hot and the ground, or your positive and negative. So that's why you would have full blower. You could have full blower and this not working correctly. But if you're not getting the low, medium 1, and medium 2, then it's probably your resistor here and not your fan, obviously, because it's working on high. But mine wasn't working on any of them. So it's not the blower. Blower works. It's not the resistor. So your last option is obviously the ignition. That ignition switch, and that's its source. That's where it actually gets the power it needs to run the blower. So if we come back over here, I'm going to kind of show you, when I took my ignition switch out, what I found. So basically what you're looking for is, when you take this guy apart, he's just held in with some clips. It just clips together real easy. No, nothing too bad. When you do take it out, though, it's going to look something like this right here. And if you notice, it's just a contactor. And when you turn your ignition, put your key in the ignition and you turn it, these little contacting fingers make or break depending on what stage the ignition's in, whether it's run, accessory, start, whatever. And it's going to turn on different functions of the car. So you can see them in there, those little contactors. And as this barrel turns, it closes those in and out. Anyways, so if I flip this over, you're going to see a really bad burn. Okay, and that burn goes all the way down to the contactor right there. That's kind of blurry. Anyways, that's not good. So basically what's happening, these will heat up because you are pushing current through there. But if you do get a bad contact somewhere, it's going to heat up and it's going to burn. So that's our problem right there. So like I said, if you're having issues with your blower, this is one of the things that you can check, the ignition switch. I did ohm across there, and it's really high. So yeah, it's pretty bad. So I went and bought a new one. It's like $30 for a new one. We're gonna slap that in there. and take a look. And then obviously if that's not the issue, then it's definitely, if you could have a wiring problem, you could have a weak connection somewhere in one of the connections, one of the wiring harnesses, like this one, or on the fan, or on the resistors themselves. But generally, you're either going to have a motor go out for the blower, or you're going to have your resistors go bad. Obviously, like I said, the resistors, you can determine that if you have power on high for the blower, then it's probably your resistor. If you don't have power on any of the sections, then it could be the blower, or it could be your ignition switch. But definitely check your fuses and the glove box first before you do that. Another problem that you can run into, I don't know if I mentioned this yet, but this little control panel here, it could go out. But a good way to test that is by having it plugged in and just running through the different vent settings, and you'll hear the if you're hearing the servos initiate, then the board on here is probably good. Like I said, you can't buy just the board; you got to buy the whole piece itself. It's like $100. And also, you can check to see if it's getting on here. You're gonna have, I think, the bottom one, right? You have your AC compressor to come on for the AC, which are these right here. The top one, I believe, is AC, and the bottom one is your defrosters. And you can test those, and if those are coming on, then obviously it's probably not your board. Probably want to check your ignition switch or the resistors over there. Anyways, hopefully this was helpful. I spent some time on this, and definitely if you can find some schematic online, that'll definitely help you being able to troubleshoot and go around and check your voltages and stuff. Anyways, hope this is a good video. Talk to you there. Bye.